do here, I don't know where to begin. I think the big issue, let's do Baltimore first. Did Dan Duquette do a good job? We talked a little bit about this last week or a couple weeks ago. It seems like the Orioles, who wanted to get rid of Adam Jones, they could not trade Chris Davis. But it seems like the Orioles, who decided to, instead of renovate, start from scratch, they did okay with prospects garnered. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the Orioles, if you want to look at winners and losers, I think they come out of this a winner. And I think Dan Duquette was the point person for the deals made. There seemed to be a clear and concise structure on behalf of the Orioles. They trade away 6 players, bring back 15 players, wow. 13 minor leaguers, 2 players with some sort of major league service. And I think Jonathan Villar, the one in the deal with the Brewers, but they shed $35 million. And they brought back $2.75 million in international signing bonus pool to go with the 5.5 they have. They got $8 million to sign in international money, and they're going to spend it. Remember, this is the one team that didn't even make an appeal to try to get Ohtani to have interest in them. They didn't even try. And they've said in the past, we didn't spend international money because we wanted to invest all our money in our major league team. And now they realize you can't do one and not the other. You need to do both, and they've got $8 million to spend on international money right now, and they're going to be players there. So I think that somebody's listened, and the structure was right, and the outcome was right, and a jump start for them for sure in rebuilding the franchise with their farm system. They go 13 new prospects, 14 really, one guy in the major league. So pretty substantial turnaround for them.
Do we think now that both Duquette and Buck will return for 2018 and beyond?
Hard to know. It really is hard to know. I think that's an ownership decision, right? And that's the one that's always the wild card there. But, they did let Dan kind of coordinate all this. And I think that by all accounts, and from most everybody I've heard and talked to about it, they feel like, you know what? He did a pretty nice job. I mean, owner's going to love the $35 million off the payroll. They're going to love that piece. And then you start to look at the prospects they brought back in the deal and how clean it was. And I like that they didn't hold on to Jonathan Scope. I mean, why, right? If you're going to rebuild, you can come last place with him, last place without him. I'm glad they made that deal too. I think it pushes the rebuilding process along. And so I think I don't know why they wouldn't keep eat both of them if they want to stay. But I think the question is if they want to stay is a big question.
All right, let's look at Buck for a second. I'm assuming he still wants to manage. He's never had a chance to win a championship, and the 2 teams he left did win, in the Yankees and Arizona. I think the one job that could be appealing to him would be the Cardinals, but maybe they hire Girardi. If Buck does leave, where could he go? I mean, if he wants to manage and have a chance to win, there's not many places that he could go. Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, none of these teams are going to fire managers. So from that standpoint, he's almost got to stay and deal with the Yankees and the Red Sox if he wants to manage in 2019. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it remains to be seen what the Mets do. I mean, there's enough chatter out there that people talk about, will they keep Callaway beyond this year, that maybe the Mets. I mean, he's done it in New York before. It would be sort of an intriguing hire for the Mets to go down that road. And again, there's a lot to get sorted out with the Mets there. And listen, Mickey Callaway, I personally would not change managers. I don't think they had a managerial problem this year. I mean, look, they had some managerial problems, but their biggest problem isn't managerial.
Listen, he hasn't distinguished himself as Miller Huggins, though. Let's be honest.
No. He's had some mistakes, right? But the reason they are where they are isn't because of him. And so I don't know that it's fair if you hired him last year to bring him in and gave him a multi-year deal. I personally think he deserves a chance to come back, but I don't, who knows how that's going to get sorted through? Who knows who's going to be making that decision there when it comes to personnel for the Mets? So, you start looking around at the other teams out there and what other job. Yeah, the Cardinals' job is the intriguing one, but there's a lot of chatter out there that Girardi would love that job. He played there at the end of his career. He's got a relationship with Uzelac. And if I'm him, I don't put my name in for it now. I'd rather get a fresh start with a fresh team in a spring training rather than coming in,
I totally agree.
Trying to make
it's August. Yeah. Don't come in there now.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'd rather just get it fresh, get a fresh start, your own staff, and try to put that thing together. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I don't know. What are they going to do? And look, if the Washington Nationals don't go to the playoffs,
I can't see them. I can't see them firing Martinez again.
I can't either. But if Dusty deserved to be fired, then it's hard to say that Dave Martinez doesn't. So I don't know what logic they use. I'm with you. I don't think it's right, appropriate, but I wouldn't have fired Dusty. I think that Dusty would have done a better job than Dave Martinez would have this year. But I don't know who's going to make that decision there, and whether they would, based upon the outcome. They had a lot of injuries. Maybe they'll look at the struggles in DC, but that's at least another team that is going to be a good team, where if you're prone to letting managers go and you think, all right, we gave a first-year guy a chance, maybe we need a veteran guy, different veteran guy, you could at least create a storyline around that for Buck in D.C.
Although there is bad blood between the Nationals and the Orioles, let's keep in mind on that,
Well, that might make it even better for the Nationals.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, you can look at it that way. All right, listen, it's a gamble. I wouldn't have done it because it's not worth the aggravation. Furthermore, he's not Chapman. To me, it's a little bit of a desperate move. I was very surprised they did it last year. They didn't have a closer, yet still won it. How about Luno and the Astros bringing in Osuna?
Well, I follow the Blue Jays situation closely, as you know, and so I kept looking at the potential of this upcoming Sunday for the Blue Jays and kept saying, how can they let him pitch? I mean, how can a guy, and I understand that baseball, issued their ruling to suspend Roberto Osuna for 75 games. They did it before the courts made any sort of judgment on his case at all. Now, Osuna accepted it, and when a player accepts a 75-game suspension, I personally look at it and think, geez, he must have done something that he thinks is significant, because 75 games is a pretty significant suspension. Now, but he was due to come back and pitch on Sunday with his court case. He had a hearing today that it's been pushed back now to September 5th. And the next hearing date, September 5th. So this isn't resolved. It feels like such bad form for a guy to go on the mound and pitch while his potential, assault case is still ongoing.
Well, he did not pitch Sunday, did he?
No, this upcoming Sunday is his suspension's due.
Oh, so that's when he was going to pitch this Sunday.
Right, so this coming Sunday, he's eligible to be activated off that 75-game suspension. He's going to be activated, and the idea that he was going to pitch for the Blue Jays while his case in Toronto was still pending just felt so like it was wrong. So I thought, I didn't think they'd be able to trade him because I thought everybody else would look at it the same way. The Astros didn't. Look, I'm all for second chances. I got them, Chris. You gave them. I mean, so I'm all for people getting second chances having been given them. And so I have some level of understanding and compassion that if you accept responsibility, if you make changes, if you go in the right direction and do the next right thing, then I'm all for people getting a second chance having gotten them. Now, sometimes it's better in a different location than the place where you offended. And so I get that maybe it's not right in Toronto and that another place is the right place to go. So it gives the feel like, it's win at all cost in Houston, especially after Verlander and McCullers took such strong positions about it, especially since ownership said they have a zero-tolerance policy. And people have a hard time reconciling Jeff Luhnow saying they have a zero-tolerance policy and then trading for Osuna. Now, what he means is if you do it as a member of the Astros, we have zero tolerance. We're not going to put up with that.
Yeah, he's talking about his own franchise. He's not talking about somebody else.
He's talking about giving a guy a second chance within the organization. Now, some people may not see it the same way, including some people in his clubhouse. And where they vetted Osuna, they said they've done, the most sort of background reconnaissance they've ever done on a guy. And the one thing that I didn't think they didn't do is take the temperature of their own clubhouse. And so, Osuna shows up and they're going to have a meeting and Osuna's going to tell his story. And the players all took a position, as is appropriate. Well, innocent until proven guilty. We don't know the whole story. Let's wait until we hear the story. But once they hear the story, I don't know that makes it better.
Yeah, again, to me, I unless you were, the Chapman thing is interesting, too. Now, Chapman only got 35 games, but Chapman's a bad guy, and the Yankees gave him $85 million.
No charges were pressed against Chapman either. That's the other part of it. Chapman
but he's got a gun. He's shooting bullets.
Right. Oh, yeah. No,
he's choking a girlfriend who's got a baby on her lap. I mean, that thing was awful. I mean, and the Cub fan didn't care, and the Yankee fan didn't care. So I don't know if the Astro, assuming there's no Ray Rice kind of video, I think the Astro fan will get over it. Because they want to win. But the thing that I can't understand is Osuna is not good enough and he's not dominant enough. I mean, he had a lousy year last year. He's had anxiety issues and everything else. I'm not too sure if it's worth the aggravation. Even if you thought he was going to be help your team, I just don't know if he's locked down come postseason. That's why I'm puzzled of why they made the move here today. You know that?
Yeah, look, I think he's a pretty good closer.
He's not great. He's not great. Not great.
Yeah, well, he's a top 10 closer in baseball.
But they need a top 2 or 3 closer, Steve, to win a championship.
But here's the thing. Desperate people do desperate things. Those guys that maybe some guys who were available on that list, they didn't make the deal. For whatever reason, they didn't make the deal. And Jeff Luhnow had committed to A.J. Hinch that he wasn't going to make him go to the postseason again this year without an answer for the 9th inning. And so he made this deal. Like, I get it. And I don't know that. Look, I don't know that it's as easy as if he was good enough, then it's acceptable, and if he's not good enough, it's not acceptable.
Well, I think talent overrules here, Steve. Talent's the most important thing.
It does when it's your guy. I don't know that it makes it acceptable. Like here's the thing.
It didn't stop the Yankees from making a trade with the Reds, and it didn't stop the Cubs from making a trade with the Yankees, and it didn't stop the Yankees from giving Chapman $85 million.
Now, it did stop the Dodgers from making the deal.
Yes,
right?
it did.
The Dodgers had the deal on it, and so every organization has to make that decision, and they have to live with it. But it is a big distraction in season like this, down the stretch, for a team that is. We all assume that they're going to win that division. Well, Altuve's on the DL, Correa's on the DL, and Springer hurt his shoulder yesterday, and they've got a distraction right now with this thing. Now, I still think they're going to win the division, but it is if the Padres had traded for him, I don't think anybody would have batted an eye, and everybody would have said, all right, well, they're not in the playoffs this year. So they're not selling their soul. They're going to let him kind of recover and grow back as they grow toward a playoff position. You could tell the story on that, right? So I understand why people are worked up about it. I also appreciate people getting second chances. It just, and each team has to, in their own time and space, make that decision for themselves. Here's the one part of it is that, his hearing, the lawyer makes statements about things and everything else, but he had this hearing. It's postponed again, and he took a 75-game suspension. Now, it wasn't out of the blue. Baseball did an investigation, and they didn't just pull 75 games out of their hat, right? It was for a reason. I think baseball has to look at this and say that players, when there's a case like this in season,
can't be traded.
Stays on it. Well, not even that. You've got to stay on it. You can't pitch while you have a pending case for an assault in a domestic violence case. So he stays on paid administrative leave until there's some resolution within the judicial system. Then baseball will make a ruling, because I get they want to make the ruling and that they don't want to impact the case. But 75 games, one, you know what it did? It took away a full year of service time for him. He needs to have another full year now before he's a free agent. He made the deal for 75 games knowing he was now going to have to take another full season before he became a free agent because he lost the service time to become a free agent. He took a 75-game suspension. This is a pretty serious thing that happened. And the fact that he would pitch while the case is going on just doesn't feel right in any team's uniform.
Yeah, I'm more wrapped up. What happens with him at the 75 games, I'm surprised at Houston, where they are, postseason, winning last year. They can put a closer, they can put a pitcher in the bullpen, a starter, like they did last year at times. I'm surprised the Astros took this kind of chance. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, it's desperate. People do desperate things.
They shouldn't be desperate, though. They won a championship last year and they're in first place.
Yeah,
this is not a franchise. These aren't the Cubs who haven't won in 100 years.
Yeah,
they just won a championship.
Look at it that way. I understand how you look at it that way. I don't think that's how teams look at it. They look at it saying, how many times do we get a chance to go back again? We've got this team. We're going to try to win. And I think it feels like a sort of win-at-all-costs move at any cost, right? And even if it's not the premium guy and the best closer, he's the best guy we can get. And so we're going to get him. And, oh, by the way, we think we got him at a discount rate. Like, there's that baseball part. Now, for the Blue Jays, honestly.
Oh, they got a break. They got him out of
This
there.
is
They can
huge.
try Giles. I mean, they got a major.
They
The Blue
traded
Jays
their
got
guy with blemishes for your guy with blemishes. And quite honestly, Giles has got closer stuff, and I think he'll have learned something going to the new place. That this is this is a new opportunity. The baggage was too much for him to come back to Houston, and they got 2 other prospects. I mean, this was a huge save, pun intended, by the Blue Jays.
No question about it, 100%. All right, listen, I think Archer's overrated. Give me a little thought on Pittsburgh and Tampa with that trade.
Well, yeah, look, Chris Archer has better stuff than his numbers play out. And so something has been missing there. Now, maybe it's just the American League East. And he has numbers. So in his career, and I saw this out there yesterday, I found really interesting about him. So in his career, Chris Archer has made 69% of his starts in the AL East. All right, 69% of his starts in the American League East. And with those, he has a 5.87 earned run average. So the rest of baseball against whom he has performed, he's performed at a pretty high level. It's the AL East that's beating him up. So I understand the logic of saying get him out of the AL East. He's going to go in somewhere. Now, the best pitchers pitch. Look, Chris Sale's not complaining about the AL East.
And nor is Blake Snell, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. So I think that on a really good team, Chris Archer's a number 3. On the Pirates, he's a number 1. He's got, and what makes him so enticing is that you get 3 years beyond this year at $27.5 million. So on average, about $9 million a year. And for a guy that's still in the prime of his career, and I think the change of scenery might do him some good. Ray Searage, good pitching coach. And so, for the Pirates, it was a good move because they get control. Their team played hard to put them in position.
How good is Meadows, though, the guy they gave up?
He's a pretty good player. Now, is he going to be consistent of? He doesn't walk a lot. But he's a pretty good player, and the Glasnow kid. To me, that was an easy give. 6'8", can't throw strikes, and that is a guy he's got great stuff. And he's got a presence, but at 6'8", that's a lot of body to get in the sink to be able to repeat your delivery to throw strikes.
Point.
He can't do that, and so that didn't hurt. Meadows hurt. But you know what? There's a part of it that it's like Pittsburgh fans complain when we're close, we never go for it. We always end up getting Ivan Nova, with 2 months left on his deal, or they got J Happ a couple years ago, 2 months in the deal, or Francisco Liriano. They said, "Can we go for it once?" And this was a go for it, where they don't rent. They get the guy for 3 years. And at some point, I think they had to make a move like this. And the Keona Keller's got a really good arm.
Yeah, he does.
And so,
he does.
They got control for 4 years with him. So, they're, I don't know. I like what they did. I still don't think they're a playoff team, but I like what they did. And I think that they can explain it because they do have Dickerson, who's really having a great year. And they have Polanco signed and they have Marte signed.
Yeah, I listen. I think Archer is overrated, but I do understand what you're saying here from that standpoint. All right, Yankees-Red Sox. Who helped themselves the most in the last 2 weeks?
I think it's a draw. I think that they matched each other. I think that effectively what happened was they both improved themselves, but neither one separated themselves from the other. Neither distinguished themselves from the other. Evaldi, I like Evaldi. I don't love him. I don't, and I saw him pitch in New York. Didn't love him in New York.
He's erratic. You can't count on him.
Now he's figured some things out, and I give him credit. But let's ramp it up a little bit more and see how he handles it. Now, Pierce is a really good hitter. Pierce has played for every team in the American League East. He's played on every team in the American League East now. He's that guy when he's on your team. It's like, all right, but he's on the other team. You're like, I kind of want that guy because
he's underrated. He's underrated.
He does have a lot. He's got, and here's the thing: he's got great numbers against J Happ. He got 5 home runs against J Happ, I think it is. So he's got really good numbers against J Happ. So they kind of countered each other. I like Britton the most of the guys acquired, and I like how the Yankees got him and they kept him away from other teams to get him, including Boston. But the Yankees' weakness is still kind of their weakness that, they don't have dominating starting pitching. They've got good enough starting pitching, which that formula can work. And they need 4 2/3 innings out of a starter in a game where they don't have a blowout, right? They just don't have a clunker. They've got a chance to win that game. And for the Red Sox, they've got a lot going on. I thought that they probably I would have spent more effort, time, and assets and resources on middle relief than I did second base. I think they would have been fine at second base. But, with Devers on the DL and Nunez needed to play third, they thought they needed that guy, and it was a low price for Kinsler, and he's a veteran, so why not? So Dave Dombrowski seems really comfortable that Thornburg's going to come back in his bullpen, lock in that 7th, 8th inning, and they've got enough there. I would have liked to have seen the Red Sox get one more reliever, and maybe the Yankees to get an outfielder, but they don't need it.
Cole Hamels in Chicago, what's your take on the Cubs?
Well, here's the thing about the Rangers pitchers this year, which is just absolutely stunning, is at Globe Life Park in Texas, Cole Hamels had like a 7 ERA, but on the road he had a sub-3 ERA. Jake Diekman, the reliever that went to Arizona, he had a 7.85 ERA at home and a .4 ERA on the road. I don't know. I mean, I know it's a hitter's ballpark, but I think Hamels will be better for the Cubs than he was in Texas, but he's not Cole Hamels anymore. So I think he's going to be he'll be a number 4 that will be what you're going to get when you give him the ball. He's going to keep you in the game. He has had some clunkers this year, but I think that he'll be okay for them. But I don't think that they've added a guy that's going to pitch game 1 or 2 in the postseason.
Yeah, and remember, Theo does not do a good job with free agents or pitchers. I mean, J.D. Drew, Matt Clement, Julian Tavares, Yu Darvish.
Yeah, Lester's been pretty good.
But that was an owner thing, $168 million. Chatwood, terrible. I mean, they have not.
Tough.
Yeah, he's much better in the recruitment trades, like an Arrieta. Rizzo, he's much better there.
Yeah, that's fair.
Than he is with the free agents. So that would be my argument with that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I still think that the Cubs are a really good team. I think the Chris Bryant shoulder issue is troubling. That's the one that they've got depth to cover it during the regular season. But, man, they need Chris Bryant back because they're not the same team without him.
And last thing, and then we'll get to a quick what you think now as we head down the stretch. The Dodgers, to me, I know they could not resist, especially with the Machado thing, but the Dodgers' secret the last 3 or 4 years has been their interchangeable parts. Goodness, even when Kershaw gets knocked out, they bring a pitcher in there like an Alex Wood, and he pitches great. Whether it's Max Muncy or Chris Taylor or, whoever it might be, they Justin Turner off the scrap heap from the Mets. I don't like. It's almost like the Dodgers are trying too hard. Dozier, Machado. They're only 6-6 since Machado got there. They've now lost 3 in a row. They're only 10 over 500. Dozier's got a 305 on base percentage. I think I may have left well enough alone if I was. I know they're bad against lefties, but I may have left well enough alone if I was LA. What's your take on that?
Yeah, see, here's the thing. I think that I love the deals that they made. Now, I thought they should have gotten more than John Axford in their bullpen. I don't know that that's an answer, and I think they've got a gap there between the end of the starting, when the starting pitcher comes out and getting it to Jansen. I don't love what they have now. They look at it and think, well, maybe the postseason we'll get Kenta Maeda out there again. He was so good last year. The idea of taking starters, putting them in the pen, that seems to be the answer for a lot of teams right now, and it's worked. But I think that the interchangeable parts, they trade for Machado, who says he's a shortstop. Turner goes down and they play him at third. It's an interchangeable part. Dozier is always been a big second half guy, and we're not talking about he's hotter in the second half than the first. Like, he's a monster in the second half. I think the last 2 years he's got like 21 and 25 homers respectively, something like that. He's got the most home runs in the second half of the season in the last 3 or 4 years. So I mean he's been a monster in the second half. Now, he hasn't shown that he's going to be that guy yet, but I love the move for them. I think the stability factor when they get Turner back, they got Chris Taylor then who can move all over the field. He is a table setter, and if you take Taylor out of the lineup, how do you set your lineup? Because if Taylor's out, that means that the likelihood is, and you have Dozier at second, that means that Muncy's at first and Bellinger's in center. And you've got Kemp left and probably Puig in right. Who's your leadoff hitter? That is a bit of an issue for them because Taylor's kind of been that catalyst for them. So I'll be interested to see what they do. But I like what they did a lot more than I like what Milwaukee did.
You don't like what Milwaukee did with Moustakas and Scope?
Here's the thing. The Brewers play the Cardinals enough to know playing infielders out of position doesn't work. So their plan is that we're gonna get a third baseman, move our third baseman to second, and now let's go get another second baseman. And then what do? Now there's some talk they're going to play Scope at shortstop. Jonathan Scope has played 22 innings in his career at shortstop.
Why don't they put Shaw at first base ahead of Braun?
Well, they've got Aguilar there. You got to have Aguilar.
Oh, is Aguilar playing? Does he play first base all the time?
Yeah, he plays first base. So he's legit. Like he's like a David.
Well, you got to leave him there. I thought they kind of maneuvered him in the outfield occasionally. They don't.
No, they don't. So he's playing first base, and they've got Thames that can play some first base, and Braun that can play some first base. So that's the problem. Is the idea is that you're going to trade for Moustakas, you're going to trade for Scope, and the answer is, well, one of those three guys will sit for every game. Or we'll play Scope at shortstop and we'll play Shaw at second. The Cardinals are where they are in the standings because they play a first baseman at third base. They play a guy at first base who's a DH. They play a shortstop who should play third. And at times the third baseman, they play him at second. And he probably shouldn't be in the field at all. It's Jerko. So like that's the reason why the Cardinals have fallen back in the Central Division and why the Brewers have beaten in so many games. And the Brewers are saying, oh, that looks like a good plan. Let me try that. Like, I don't understand that. Like, I love Moustakas as a trade deadline pickup. I just didn't like him for the Brewers. I love Scope for a trade deadline pickup, but after they got Moustakas and Shaw, I don't like it for the Brewers. So they made two moves that kind of stepped on each other, and now they're in a thing that you're going to make deals to get guys, trade assets, and you're going to put guys on the bench or play them out of position. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, let's see. Brewers are playing well right now. I mean, they're playing well against L.A. They buried the Giants. They beat Washington.
Good bullpen, man.
Very good. And Hader's good and everything else, but, I mean, they're playing well. I didn't have a problem with it. You're right about the Cardinals. Let's see how that plays itself out. All right, now that we have settled in here next 2 months, and yes, I know Verlander last year, August 31st, I get it. But now that we are where we are right this second, are you going to still say Red Sox and Dodgers? Who's your World Series pick right now?
Mine all along, my preseason was Astros and Cubs. Astros and Cubs is my preseason pick. Now, I had the Yankees winning the divisions, the Red Sox as the wild card. I'll stick with that because I don't want to be wrong twice and change it and then be wrong again. But I think the Yankees, they've got their work cut out for them because they don't have a whole lot of margin for error. And with Judge out of the mix right now, those Sales out of the mix, so we'll see. Although J Happ's not going to pitch this weekend against Boston, who they got him for because of the hand, foot, and mouth.
Has that been confirmed, by the way?
I'm pretty sure that's the thing. That's what he has, and I think what I saw was that's going to push him out of that start over the weekend. So we'll see if that changes. But Cleveland's going to get in. And Houston's in, and the question is, well, Houston's 4 up on Seattle. I still think they'll hold off Seattle.
No, we know. No, again, it's going to be Houston, the Red Sox, or the Yankees in the World Series. Which one of the three?
Cleveland, don't count Cleveland out yet. Do not count Cleveland out of this mix yet. They with Lindor and Ramirez, and with Kluber, Carrasco, and Bauer. Don't count, and with Miller and Hand and that bullpen. Don't count Cleveland out. I think Cleveland's got a legitimate shot coming out of that there as well, especially because Red Sox, or Yankees, one of those teams is going to be a wild card. And the Indians, get that bye to the division series. So I wouldn't discount.
Well, they're going to play Houston, though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
they're going to play Houston.
I've got Houston going to the World Series. That was my pick prior to the season. I've got kind of the rematch of the last 2 World Series winners with the Cubs and the Astros. But and I'd stick with that.
All right, Stevie, we talk next week. Good job as usual today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You got it, Chris. My pleasure.
Mr. Phillips, to the sombrero to the sky.